On January 4th, 1992, stars from World Championship Wrestling and stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling came together to put on a star-studded, action-packed, power-packed, electrifying show for 50,000 plus fans inside the hallowed halls of the fabled Tokyo Dome, under the bright lights in the big city. Each roster, they were so goddamn amped. They were going to make this a great goddamn show. And it was such a smashing success with, after a converter rate, $3.7 million at the gate. That's a pretty goddamn big gate, I'd say. And it became a yearly tradition to host a wrestling show inside the hallowed halls of the Tokyo Dome. It's a tradition that is continuing to this very day with the upcoming Wrestle Kingdom 17. But this is years and years and years before Wrestle Kingdom 17. Let's talk about the show, shall we? I'm John Renton with the Retro Review, WCW/New Japan Super Show 2, aka Super Warriors in Tokyo Dome for January 4th, 1992. Man, there were some goddamn great moments on this show. And also, the crowd, they were really super into some of this show. It was insane. When you got 50,000 plus people going absolutely insane for some of the stars, even if only half of them are going insane for you, it's an upper and you're going to be amped, and everybody was amped for this. There were some that were a little bit too amped. There were also some people that shouldn't have been on this goddamn show, but with the WCW New Japan co-promotion, you had to put a few people on there that probably wouldn't have made the show if they had actual, talent that they wanted to feature. That being said, really goddamn great kickoff point. Yes, I will retro review the, I believe it was March 91 WCW New Japan Super Show, if, all that's in full on New Japan World, but this, it's in chapters, so to speak. You got to go to every single match. But you know what? It's just really cool to see how on fire New Japan was at this point. It's just insane. The crowd reactions for a few of the matches, including one with Antonio Inoki and Hiroshi Hase. Jeez. Jesus Christ. But it was really cool to, look back on this. And yeah, I decided I'm going to retro review some of the older pre-Wrestle Kingdom shows. Why not? It's kind of fun to look back on these. And some of these retro reviews may pop up in January as well, just because it's nice to reflect on this stuff and also see how, New Japan really was truly on fire in the 90s. So, we get Hiroshi Yamamoto, who was future Tenzan, who is still going to this very day, taking on Black Cat, who is Victor Mar Manuel. That was the name he was known by. Black Cat was the name he was known by as well. Apparently, he passed away in 2006. Rest in peace, Black Cat. This was your typical match. It was kind of cool to see Tenzan, just the fact that Tenzan was about a year into his wrestling career at this point, if that. Some good submissions. Nice back suplex where Tenzan landed right on his goddamn head. A senton off the second for 2, and then DDT off the second rope for 3. If I don't analyze so many of these matches, in full detail, there's a good reason for that, because I'm not as familiar with some of the guys on the undercard until we get about the third or fourth match, or at least the fourth or fifth match. But that being said, if you know anything about any of these particular wrestlers and you want me to know some facts, please let me know in the comments. So we get a tag team match coming up. It's Osamu Kedo and Kuneki Kobayashi, who was Tiger Hunter. Apparently he was a rival for Tiger Mask. And they took on Kengo Kimura and Kantaro Hoshino. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of these names. It was hard hitting. It was standard. There was a nice, nice leg lariats. The crowd was popping for just about everything. Nice Fujiwara armbar. And then we got the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling. No surprise. Roll up 1, 2, 3. And some of these matches were under 10 minutes. The one thing is they do cut out the entrances. I don't know if that has to do with copyright or just whatever, but they did cut out the entrances. That's the one disappointing thing. But that being said, probably would have added a good 5 minutes to every single match length or match clip. They include the entrance. And then we get Jushin Thunder Liger, one of the 2 guys that got me into Japanese wrestling at an early age, him and Muda. Masahiro Chono also was really cool, more on him later. But yeah, Jushin Thunder Liger, Masashi Anagi, and Akira Nagami. I've heard of Akira Nagami. And obviously I've heard of Jushin Thunder Liger, as I just said. They took on Hiro Saito, Super Strong Machine, who was Junita Hirata, and Nori Hanagu. Again, sorry if I mispronounced. Liger, just doing great stuff. I love Liger. I love watching Liger work. He was the current WCW Light Heavyweight Champion. He would actually go on to lose that title to Brian Pillman at Super Brawl 2 just about almost 2 months later. It was at the very end of February 92. Good pace. Akira with the Demolition style makeup was a little bit. I mean, I know that makeup like that was done well before Demolition, but still. And we get a Dragon Suplex for a pop 1, 2, 3. Good stuff. Liger's team wins this. And then we get the Enforcers, Larry Zbyszko and Arn Anderson doing great heel work against Michiyoshi Ahana and Shiro Koshinaki, who was the first IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Shiro, that is. Shiro, not to be confused with the dog Shiro from Suikoden 2. That's a deep cut. Does anybody remember Suikoden 2? Does anybody remember the Suikoden series? Answers in the comments, please. This is pre-New World Order version of Larry. If you get it, you get it. Heavy boost for Arn and Tully. I wrote down Arn and Tully because I was used to it, but then Arn and Larry. Good heel work. Ohana's quite good. And we got a spine buster, 1, 2, 3. That was kind of out of nowhere, but it was pretty good. He had a nice amateur background, though, this Ohana guy. And that was good for what it was. It was cool to see Arn and Larry in a New Japan ring. And then we get Dusty Rhodes and Dusty Rhodes Jr., a.k.a. Dustin Rhodes, a.k.a. the future Gold Dust. They took on Masa Saito and Kim Duke. Duke spelled D-U-K. Masa Saito, his reputation speaks for itself. Kim Duke basically didn't want to sell shit. I mean, I don't know if that's just because that's how he was, but because I'm not that familiar with him. Familiar with Saito, though, and they just loved watching Dusty here. Dusty doing the antics, because he really wasn't able to do all that much physically in the ring, because he'd been beating his body up for 20 plus years. But Masa and Dusty having a not a dance off, but like like just having like a sign up there, like just doing all their goofy stuff and everything. Mom, the girls are fighting again, is what I wrote down. We did get a lot of rest holds, but it was what it was. And then we got a running bulldog, 1, 2, 3. Kim Duke did take the pin, and Dusty Rhodes Jr. got the victory. Then we get Scott Norton versus Tony Halme. Tony Halme may not be a familiar name to you guys, but you may remember him if you're a longtime WWF fan like I am. Ludwig Borga. And if you thought Ludwig Borga sucked, oh boy, you ain't seen him in a New Japan ring. This guy couldn't work for shit. He also had a swastika tattoo on his leg. So he deserved every goddamn bit of ridicule and bad health that he ever had. The crowd hated Tony. They were into Norton. Scott Norton was hugely over in Japan. Ludwig Borga just couldn't work. I'm going to call him Borga. Borga couldn't work. Norton was a goddamn beast. And then we got a tackle, or like it was a lariat attempt off the top, 1, 2, 3. And there you go. Scott Norton lost. He would go on to do better things, and Ludwig Borga would slide further down into ill health because he had a swastika tattoo on his leg. Shinya Hashimoto versus Bill Kazmaier. I know the name Hashimoto. I probably need to brush up a little bit more on watching some of his best stuff, but Jesus, they loved him. They were hugely into him. And Bill Kazmaier is one of the worst wrestlers that ever got featured on TV. I mean, and he was a strong man. He only wrestled from like, I think, 85, 86 into 92. And yeah, the camera cut away, like zoomed way out onto the stage, like 4 minutes in. Maybe he was embarrassed to be around Bill Kazmaier. Crowd absolutely loved Hashimoto. Leg lariats, and then hit DDT 1, 2, 3. And then Kazmaier attacked afterwards. I'm sure that Bill Kazmaier is a nice guy, but he was a lousy goddamn wrestler. Jesus Christ. At least you could hide him in tags. Sweet Christ. The world's strongest human being, Bill Kazmaier. I think that's how Gary Michael Capaz said it. But don't worry, the show gets better. After Vader takes on Elegante, because Vader got massively cheered weird because he got massively booed when he beat Inoki. When Inoki said, yeah, Vader, come out and fight me. And then Vader beat him in like 3 or 4 minutes. And then they were setting the seats on fire and ripping shit up because they were literally upset. Vader was getting cheered like God. And let me tell you right now, Elegante, apparently nicest guys you'll ever meet. And he couldn't work for shit. And they had to do a double disqualification or double count out. And then Vader had that steam helmet thing that he had and hit a switch and sprayed Elegante in the face. I didn't know that Elegante actually was still wrestling for WCW in like 92. I didn't know. Um, Huge boos, by the way, when they did a double count out because they probably want to see Vader win. And they kept brawling in this, and this was bad. This was bad. And I love Vader. Rest in peace, Vader. And rest in peace, Elegante. But just, god damn it, this is bad. What wasn't bad was Antonio Inoki versus Hiroshi Hase. Holy shit. Inoki, you would have thought that they would have given Inoki their firstborn. They probably would have, because they loved it. He was over like a god. And this basically boiled down to, well, Hase got KO'd by a sleeper. And then Inoki was like, get up and fight me. And Inoki's mindset is, okay, the sleeper, you want to try and, make fun of the sleeper or whatever, I'm going to punch and slap you as hard as I can. And you are going to keep taking that. Eventually, we did get some stretches. We got some nice headbutts. We got, Uranagi City. Hase kept hitting Uranagi. Just boom, 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 just kept hitting it. This crowd was insane for this. And this match was 9 minutes tops. And it was insane. We got our sleeper. We got the Enziguri that Inoki made famously he always won matches with, and got a stretch, but Hase got to the ropes, and then eventually we got an Enziguri, and the stretch wins it. Hase eventually just, gives up. Huge explosion for Inoki winning. That was certain that... I'm not going to say the match was exactly a classic, but it was certainly something that was rough at times to watch, but Jesus Christ, this crowd. And the crowd stayed up for Sting versus the Great Muta against the Steiners. Man, they were electrified. This was great. This was great shit. I loved watching it. I love Muta. I love Sting. They're going to be teaming up. They're going to be teaming up for Muta's final hurrah. Muta's bye-bye, I believe, as it said. It's going to be Sting and Darby and Muta in a 6-man, I think. I'm trying to actually remember the card. All I know is Sting's going to be part of Muta's farewell. That makes sense, since Muta's first exposure on major U.S. TV was when he had a feud with Sting in 1989. The Steiners, I guess, were the de facto heels. The crowd was into this. This is well worth watching. When the Steiners wanted to throw you, you were going. You may not want to. You were goddamn going. But Muta was great. So goddamn cool to watch. And then we get a roll through on Scott. 1, 2, 3. Good stuff. Well paced. Very good stuff. The way they listed this on Wikipedia, by the way, they had this listed as the main event. This actually was listed as the third match from the top on New Japan World. And then we get Lex Luger versus Masahiro Chono. WCW TV match. Title match. Oh, dear. Jim Herd was still there. They should have left Jim Herd in Japan. Or maybe told members of the Mafia that may or may not exist, hey, by the way, Jim Herd owes you a whole lot of money. And then he wouldn't have been around anymore. Moving on from that, Chono, he deserved a bonus. A Chonus, as it were. Luger was not motivated by this point. And Luger, when he was motivated, was pretty goddamn good. This is also before Chono got dropped on his head by stunning Steve Austin. There's some good close near falls, and then we got some outside action, a torture rack, and then a low blow while the referee's out of position. Luger hits a double axe handle off the top. 1, 2, 3, or off the second rope. 1, 2, 3. And there you go. He beat Chono. Yeah. What was good, though, was Fujinami versus Riki Choshu. And by God, you know which one Riki Choshu is. He just has that classic look. Love Fujinami. Somebody well respected by Inoki as well. And it was the IWGP and Greatest 18 Championship match unification. I don't know what the hell the Greatest 18 is. I would imagine it had something to do with, was it UWFI? Because I think that feud actually was already done by this point. I'm trying to remember, because there was a lot of splinter stuff going on in, Japanese wrestling, especially by the mid-'80s. So anyway, with these two, how could you go wrong? And the thing is, this match is 11 minutes. 11 minutes of class, great kicks, great submissions. They traded the Scorpion. A lot of big superplex, both sold it. There was some good stuff here, and Choshu eventually fires up. Hits a lariat from behind, hits a big old lariat, 1, 2, 3, and wins. And Inoki then fires up the crowd and does whatever he says. I actually don't know what it is because it's in Japanese. So, as much as I love Inoki, I mean, I could live 5 lifetimes and never learn Japanese. But I'll say this was a hell of a goddamn show, a way to start off the tradition on January 4th. We just transposed June and January. January, as it were. Let's hear it for the January. I'll get myself out of this one way or another. So yeah, I'm going to retro review some other ones in January when I can. We'll see. I'll probably only do a few, but it'll be nice to do this stuff over the course of like a couple years. But this was a pretty good start. I mean, pretty damn good way to do it. WCW New Japan had a hell of a goddamn Super Show. I will go back and do the first Super Show. And the second Super Show took place the following year under a different title. I mean, I forget what it was. It was Fighting Warriors or something like that. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.